Welcome back to the True That Show, everyone. It's really nice to have you here again. Hello, Deborah.
Hello, Caroline. How are you
today?
I'm good. I'm good. I was chipper, so I thought I'd wear, like, I know that you guys are listening audio, but for those that aren't, I'm wearing a nice little yellow polka dotted dress.
Yes. So she just finished baking her apple pies and she decided to come and jump on the podcast. So thank you for your time. So Deb, today we have someone pretty amazing. And I was going to say something because it's a subject that, we kind of hear about, but not. This person has a really different approach to a subject we've heard before. And that's probably why his method is successful. But I will ask you, Deb, without saying any much more, I just want to say I hired someone to be your mindset explorer. How do you feel about that?
I was really excited there. I thought you said you hired me for a housekeeper.
No.
All right. So a mindset explorer. Okay. Well, the first thing that comes into my mind is, what is he going to find in there? What is in there that I don't know, right? Mindset explorer. I mean, I've heard mindset. We do mindset. We talk about mindset, right? Today was a nice big sunny day. I'm trying to hold on to the sunshine. I'm wearing a yellow dress, all that good stuff. But a mindset explorer, it'd be like, I don't know. I'd be like, do you love me? Love me not? Like the daisy, she loves me not. What do you know? You know what? It's like, what do you know that I don't know? That's what it makes me feel like. What do you know that I don't know?
Yeah. For me, it always makes me a little nervous. I'm like, ooh, someone who will go see what I don't want to say. So, but no, realistically, we will be talking about, someone who can really help you find even what you don't know is there. So, because if we want to improve in life or feel better or whatever, there's things that are beyond us. There's things that it seems we don't know. And then when someone says it, you're like, oh, yeah, really? It's a bit like when you talk to your kids, you'll tell them something 15 times and then the teacher says something and they come home and like, Mom, you know what? The teacher said that. And you're like, oh. So coming from the outside, quite often we understand better than like looking from the inside. So Deb, I will let you introduce our speaker today.
Well, it's a great pleasure because, of course, he's from a country that I love dearly. And I actually met this gentleman at my chiropractic office because, I'm a big believer in health. And I'm like, hey, I'm looking for somebody, like someone to do a good massage. And he's like, oh, we've got this guy from Ireland. I'm like, done. Don't need to know anymore. Sign me up. And so I had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Peter Duffy, who's going to be with us today and is with us today. And we just kind of hit it off and had like expansive conversations to the point where we've actually gotten together and had, time together and drinks together and conversation together outside of office hours. And just his work really blows me away. You want to talk about mindset explorer? It's kind of like you feel like you're going to go onto a journey, right? And if you've ever been to Ireland, it's all about the journey. And he just, every time we talked, there was more to learn and more to learn and more to learn. And he does these workshops and I met his partner and she's amazing and she sings, very creative. So I have no doubt that the word explorer is in his work. So without further ado, Peter, welcome to the True That Show.
Hello, girls. Nice to meet you. Thanks so much for having me. Delighted to be here. Yeah, first podcast. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yes, absolutely. We're so happy to have you, and we're going to make this super easy. So obviously, you have a history of understanding people and working with people. So maybe just give our audience a little bit of how you came to making the decision to create the Mindset Explorer. A little bit of your background.
Hey, well, let's just put into just to kind of to make a long story a bit short, I guess, when I'm 16, 17, didn't have any clue what I really wanted to do when it comes to university. And I remember when I was 18 years of age, went on a family holiday to California. And I remember my mother was sitting outside in the pool and she had like this soreness in her neck. So then I just went up to offer just give her a massage and, oh, actually, you don't want to see your mother in pain. And then after, say, 15, 20 minutes, she was like, oh my God, that feels amazing and all that. And I was like, maybe this is something that I could do, physiotherapy or something. And then went back home, looked at the point system and all that, and it was just way too far out of reach. You would have to get 5A grades, out of 6 and all that, and it just wasn't within my range. So I decided to do my Bachelor of Arts in French and Philosophy. My second last year of the degree, I did anatomy, physiology, massage. In my last year of my degree, then I did another evening diploma in sports massage therapy, and then that prepped me then for a postgraduate in physical therapy. So then I started working as a physical therapist for like 5 years in my own clinic in Ireland. But then within, say, the first year of practicing, I started to lose my mojo. I was like, what the hell is going on? This is my career path. How am I feeling this way? And I'm just a year into it. And it was actually because my beautiful fiance, who you met, Deborah, had a pain that started off in her left shoulder blade. And I treat stuff like that every day and with success, so it was no problem. But for Charlotte, it just wouldn't go away. And then a few weeks passed, and then it started to spread to her jaw, her neck, and then her hip and her lower back. And it was just getting worse, to the point where she was just waking up in tears throughout the night, 3 o'clock in the morning. I'd have to go to the end of the bed, do some reflexology to try and help her relax. She was on powerful medication that wasn't really working. She lost her job because she couldn't sit down for more than 10 or 15 minutes at work without experiencing chronic pain. And she'd have to go see all these specialists, But so me as a physical, this went on for 4 years, by the way. 4 years of me coming home after a long day and just massaging. I had diagnosed her, keep on reevaluating, nothing was happening. And for me as a physical therapist, I felt worthless. It didn't matter how much success I was having at work. I couldn't help the person who I loved the most, So it was so challenging for Charlotte. I mean, geez, I can only imagine what she was going through. But for me, I had my own struggles there, and it really kind of hit me hard, And so we went to all the physios, the chiropractors, kinesiologists, healers, MRIs. We spent thousands of euros trying to figure out what was going on, and no one was able to help. So then she came across this workshop run by Dr. Shane Murnaghan, an amazing doctor and now friend in Dublin. And he's a doctor in traditional Chinese medicine, and he's a researcher and inventor. And he invented this device called gravity, which decompresses both ends of the spine, realigns the pelvis in the spine. And for the first time in 4 years during that workshop, she went down for 20 minutes and she felt a massive decompression, massive release. So I ran straight down to the ATM. I took out the money and I paid for it straight away. And then we signed up then for multiple one-to-one sessions with Dr. Shane Murnaghan. And that's when everything changed. Because the first time he was able to identify the root cause of the problem. And that was her pain was psychosomatic, which means that people don't understand the word psychosomatic. It means that her pain stems from an emotional anguish, repressed emotion, whatever experience that you've had in your past, and it just, for Charlotte, just collected, and then it just manifested physically in her left shoulder. And we don't really, we're not really taught that. I mean, they mentioned it at the final year of our degree, but we don't go into a lot of detail regarding that. It's out of scope of practice, where practitioners, we do spine manipulations and rehab and deep tissue and all that. So that's when the Mindset Explorer was kind of born. That was like, say, that was like 4 years ago, maybe. And so he opened up this whole other field that I felt was like, God, I was just after coming out of my physical therapy degree. I was like, I do not want to do any more degrees just now. So I started just researching all the articles, buying all these books, licking each page clean and just absorbing as much information as I could. Because I was just so fascinated. I couldn't believe it, and for the first time in my life, I actually discovered a passion. And I remember before that, I was like, I'm 35 now, so it was a few years ago. I didn't have any passion, wasn't passionate about cars or sports. I liked them and all that, but not the typical kind of things. And when I discovered this, I was like, oh yes, finally. I never used to read books back in the day. And I started reading all these books with human psyche and all this kind of stuff. And I'm just stuck with it now, And so it's all about kind of, since I've been observing and just researching all of this information, I'm just creating a formula, essentially, of all this foundational type of information, this kind of common denominator, that if you understand this, doesn't matter what comes your way, you're going to be able to work through that. You'll be able to understand it, you'll be able to accept it, overcome whatever it is that's in your life, and you'll be able to learn from it and move on without being anchored to those painful experiences in your past. So, and that's why I've coined this term the Explorer method, which comprises of 5 universal keys. And then each key is an essential element and practice, you know, for overcoming those self-limiting beliefs, those painful experiences, those failures that you've had in your life, to eventually then develop this kind of resilient life, to feel empowered, to feel successful, and to feel happy. And that's essentially what we're doing with this type of transformational coaching. So that's a nutshell there, a nutshell of what to expect.
Great nutshell. You know what? I'm going to be the devil's advocate a little here, but I really want to hear about those 5 keys a bit more after. I'm being the devil's advocate because I have someone that I live with every single day that has back pain. And it's been like a bit the journey that you're describing, MRIs, drugs, all specialist types. And then it's like, well, work out more, do this more, but the pain is always there. And, you know, I can't see myself telling him, well, maybe you have, you know, a something in your psychosomasis that is actually triggering that. So how can you bring someone to even consider the fact that when there's chronic pain like that, you know, there's something behind it that is not necessarily discoverable by an MRI or treatable with, you know, high painkillers?
Yeah, well, you know, Charlotte went through that exact same process as well, you know, and during the 4 years of her experimenting with all these different forms of treatment and different specialists and all this, I remember, I think it was in the first year of her pain, she met with one of my professors, my lecturers, and he actually suggested that it was psychosomatic, and that just hit Charlotte hard. She started bawling her eyes, crying. You think that the pain isn't real, it's not in my head, and it just did not work. But then through process of elimination, trying all these different things, and all credit to Charlotte, she's amazing, you know, her mindset. She wanted to find out what this problem was and to overcome it. She wasn't accepting this life of pain, you know. So it all comes at the right time. Like you were saying as well with the kids, you tell the kids the same thing all the time, then they go to the teacher said something, and it's all of a sudden, whoa, do you know that kind of way? So everything comes at the right time, you know. Are you really motivated to understand why this pain is here? And are you willing to kind of to invest time into understanding, you know, what caused it in the first place? So for your husband, and this isn't to say that every chronic pain is psychosomatic, you know, they might have been improperly diagnosed, they might not be doing the appropriate, you know, whatever it is, or the appropriate deep tissue release themselves at home. It could be anything, but there's always a psychosomatic element to everything, to any kind of pain. It's impossible. You know, there's always an emotion attached to every experience. There's thoughts attached to every experience. And, you know, it's, keep in mind, you know, 95% of who we are is our subconscious mind. You know, the 5%, that conscious you, it's a tiny, tiny portion. So that 95% you is just so many impressions from experiences you've had in your lives, you know, every conversation that you've had with people, all the failures that you've had, even when you were like a little baby, you know, before your logical mind even developed, when you're 2 or 3 years of age, you're still experiencing, you're feeling things, and you don't know how to rationalize that. You don't know. So there's always that kind of stuff that's there, misunderstanding, not knowing what's there. And we're not meant to know what's there within our subconscious mind as well, but we're able to gain access. We're able to, sorry, let me just rephrase this. We're able to decompress the body. And we do that with one of those keys that I do. But one of the fundamental things is knowledge. And that is one of the first universal keys, well, which we'll talk about later on. So it's just understanding, even entertaining the idea that there is an emotional attachment to your chronic pain is a stepping stone. And if it means that in 2 years' time, it doesn't do anything for 2 years, then that's okay. But at least just to accept it, that it could be a possibility, that there is this emotional attachment to the problem. But, you know, we all have our timelines, you know, we all have them, and the right time will come, you know. You can't force this, you know. It's all down to that person, you know. They must be willing first.
That's amazing. And I think that we all have a great understanding around mindset. And many times, I think the mindset that's being introduced a lot is about, getting happier on the inside, getting happier with our minds, saying positive information. So we emit positive and it comes back to us. But the work that you're talking about is deep work, right? The work that you're talking about in terms of going in and really changing And you talk about the subconscious. I know we're going to talk a little bit about limiting beliefs, and Caroline mentioned it earlier. It's about the stuff that we don't see. And so, so let's pretend I don't know Caroline and her husband. And, you know, when you have that situation, so tough, right? Because Caroline has a sense of information that could help, whether it's child or husband, just using her as an example. Oh, yeah. And so for you, it must have been like you talked about the frustration that you went through, you know, being in love with this person who for 4 years, you couldn't help, right? You couldn't help until that person came to that place themselves where they found something out. It's so difficult, I think, on both sides, right? Because we don't know what we don't know what we don't know, you know?
No, but you know, that's the thing. When I'm on this journey, you'll always be on this type of journey. You're always learning something new, you know, but when you discover something, these truths that can massively transform someone's life, and you want to share it with your family and your friends, and then you just get that resistance, you know what I mean? There's no way they're going there, you know, that way they wouldn't even entertain the kind of conversation, you know. They might listen to me for a bit, but they wouldn't entertain it, you know. And that's frustrating. And so I had to overcome that element, you know, that little frustration myself, and just, you know, and just realize that we all have our timelines. We'll all do things at our own pace. And but yeah, I feel it, you know. And even, you know, when I started doing this work and I started incorporating on myself to transform myself, overcome my limiting beliefs, it got so frustrating because I was observing myself from the outside type thing. And I remember walking through the mall with Charlotte, and she said something that kind of triggered something in me. I got a bit frustrated, annoyed, and because of the work I'm doing, I kind of felt this emotion brewing. These thoughts come to my head, and I felt the response I wanted to give, and I was like, don't do it. Don't do it. And I did it anyway, you know, that kind of way. And then she got annoyed, and then we had this little tuffle, and I was like, why the hell did you say it? You knew it. But, you know, it's all practice, and it's just the transition phase, you know what I mean? Just creating this level of awareness. I mean, if you really want to create the life that you want, your ideal version of yourself, whether that's to be healthy, whether that's to be profoundly successful in your career, to have a loving relationship with your parents or whatever it is, then you have to reflect inwards first. You have to put this type of work into practice, you know what I mean? But you can enjoy the process. This isn't all doom and gloom and heavy lifting and all that. It's because then that's the thing, that's the important element of this first universal key, which I talk about, which is the knowledge component. Once you understand something, you start to realize things a lot better. And once you realize things, you can it's easier to put them into place, to act on them, you know. So, but understanding has to come first. If you're just going in there just expecting that transformation, boom, it's just not going to work, you know. And that's why the first universal key is essential, is the foundations. You know, so I went off on a bit of a tangent there. So
no, it was great. It's all like great information that is all related. You know, we have the impression it's on a tangent, and I think that that's what the common person thinks. But what we really need to realize is that everything is connected. Definitely. And that's, you know, so I like the tangent that you took there. Thank you. And you know what? The first key, I think, should be the key for anything and everything in life, which is knowledge. Because when we do know something, we can't unknow. Well, you can if you really want to ignore it, but you can't unknow, you know. But talk to us about the other 4 keys. I'm super curious about what's coming after. So like, if I would convince my husband, you know, to go see you, like what would be his process?
Okay, well, so before I get into the other 4 universal keys, there's a nice analogy I like using for the knowledge component. And that's like, you know, we are all explorers sailing through this beautiful life, but you wouldn't leave the port without your map and compass. That's the knowledge component. You know what I mean? That's to get to your destination. I mean, if you don't have that knowledge, that map and compass, the likelihood of you getting to your destination is pretty slim. You know, whether your destination is, like you said, become really successful in your job, to find the love of your life, to become healthy, to be illness free, then, you know, you can do all the breathwork, Pilates and meditation and all this really great stuff. But without that foundation, that knowledge, the first universal key, it's you're never really going to get to the true source of the thing that's holding you back, the thing that's weighing you down. That doesn't mean that you can't be somewhat successful and happy without having this level of knowledge and awareness. It just means that you probably won't be able to flourish, you know, the way that we all potentially can. We're only going to like at a certain level, you know. So I think that analogy is nice, you know, the map and compass, you know, that's the knowledge. If you really want to get your destination, not so much quicker. Well, yeah, quicker, but also, yeah, let's just say quicker. You know what I mean? It's going to be far more enjoyable. You know what I mean? You're going to not have this, be dealing with those, you know, pains and the struggles and all that kind of thing, and be able to do exactly what you want in your life. So then the second universal key, of course, is breath work. And, you know, the breath is a power, is the power source. We breathe in and out 22,000 times a day, roughly. And if you're able to use your breath in a certain way, in the way that I teach, then you can just reset yourself. Like those Tamagotchis that we had in the 90s, you know, those small little gadgets. You constantly feed, you go to school, tell your mom to feed it, you come back, it's dead type thing, but you can just reset it. It's like that, it just neutralize you. You know, breath work is like, it's the quickest, it's the safest, most profound way to just completely reset your body, to alter your brainwave state. So let's say you go from a stressed gamma brainwave state to an alpha theta brainwave state, which allows space for healing and reflection and so on. And so that's a type of breathwork that I teach then is conscious circular breathing. And I learned that technique then from the amazing Rebecca Kordecki in California. And essentially, you're hyperventilating consciously. You know, so you're filling your body with so much oxygen. It gets to the point, you know, actually, the more oxygen you get into your body, the less oxygen is being used throughout your tissues and so on, because you need carbon dioxide to release that component for tissues and cells. But without getting into that, it's it'll just alkaline your bodies, which means it'll reduce the acidity throughout the body as well, which means that there's less of those toxic hormones like cortisol and adrenaline flowing through the body. And helps you improve your sleep, help you overcome your whatever pain that you may be having as well. So there's a lot of great health benefits to this type of breath work. That doesn't mean you do this for like 25 to 30 minutes every single day. You might maybe do that once every couple of months if you're experiencing, if you're becoming so overwhelmed with some things, you know. But it's a nice practice to do, maybe 5 or 10 minutes every morning, along with, say, a meditation or something like that. So that's the breath work. It's a phenomenal tool that we have at our disposal. We can do it anywhere, anytime. Just understanding how to use it can massively transform your life. So that's the second universal key. The third one is a term I coined, manifestation. So manifestation combines two practices, meditation and manifestation. And they're both completely different, you know. So meditation, as you probably know, is that conscious approach to become self-centered, have inner calmness, be able to connect to whatever superior consciousness that's there. And then manifestation is this continuous process of creation. So you probably heard things like visualizations and so on. And so this, for some people, might seem a bit far-fetched, especially if you haven't heard words like that before. Manifestation or meditation, you probably would have, but you know that they're beneficial, but you're just not interested in going there. Because I've been there. As a physical therapist, all I wanted to do, spinal manipulations, find all these really cool little funky things that you can do to help people overcome their physical pain. And people always said, oh, it's meditation, breathwork. It's like, oh, yeah. And, you know, I had my own timeline, you know, and then a few years later, I started emerging into this kind of stuff, you know, submerging into this kind of stuff. And so when it comes to, I want to talk about the manifestation parts. I think that's pretty significant because our mind is unable to differentiate between an experience that's happening in your mind versus an experience that's happening in real life. We're producing, in both scenarios, we're producing the exact same chemicals. So if you're, let's say you want to, just something simple, you want to be happy or happier. So you're going to visualize in your head, you being happy, you're around various friends, you're in a certain place. Pack that visualization as much detail as you possibly can, get your senses flowing, and then embody the feeling of what's it like to be happy. Because what happens is, like I said, in both scenarios, you're creating that dopamine, that kind of feel-good chemical. It's the happiness molecule. That's what scientists have termed it. Dopamine, happiness molecule, that's flushing throughout the body. Then we have serotonin, which elevates your mood. Then it produces oxytocin, which helps, you know, pain perception, amongst other things. So that happens in both scenarios. So the significance of that is that, okay, if you want something in your life, if you want an experience in your life, then visualize it first. Visualize it first, because that's where creation starts. It's all about, say, the laws of attraction, all that. I mean, go on a tangent talking about that. But instead of just waiting for someone or something to happen in your life, you're in full control. You know what I mean? If you just start visualizing and focusing on your breath work and looking and reflecting inwards and so on, you can massively just transform your life. And this might seem, and for my friends as well, when I talk about this kind of stuff, it's hippie stuff. Do you know what I mean? Breathwork, meditation, hippie, hippie, and all that kind of stuff. And I get it, you know, there is that type of label that has, but at the end of the day, I can see friends and I can see family and they're struggling and they just accepted it. And there's a lot of pain out there and it's very hard to see. And you know, you can help them so much, but they just don't have that willingness to approach me and say, listen, what can I do?
I think
You know,
that's one of the big thing here, and I'm going to interject, is a lot of us, because I'm not, you know, we haven't known each other for that long, but I'm not like, I haven't been practicing everything that Deb has been practicing for all those years. So sometimes we do want to improve ourselves and we do want, you know, we hear that breath work, meditation, manifestation, and we're like, wow, I so want what he's saying right now, you know, but when you do it without a coach, when you do it on your own, it's difficult because, you know, your natural self is just like, no, just go to bed, just relax, you know, or just go have a glass of wine, or, you know, just eat that chocolate cake. So that's where like people like you are amazing, because you actually take people on that journey and support them through that journey. So yeah, I'm not sure if it's willingness more than being against ourselves to, you know, not do it. But I'll let you continue with your fourth key, which is.
Yeah, well, actually, we'll just expand on what you said as well. You know, at the end of the day, we are our own biggest competition. You know, we always say people like get out of your own way, but you know, since we were born, you know, we've been conditioned by our family members, by our teachers, by our friends, social media, whatever it is, and we just have this snowball effect of all these impressions and experiences and all this. And of course, you know, when you're a kid and you're listening to your mother and father and other family members and all that, I mean, they're older than you, they're wiser, and you know, what they say kind of goes and makes sense. You know, why would they do anything kind of different? And we inherit all those types of experiences. We inherit those emotions, if there's any dysfunction in the family, you're going to inherit that energy, and that's going to, you know, that's going to play a big part in your life. You know what I mean? If you have troubles with bonding with someone emotionally, you know, it's going to be very difficult to maintain that love relationship or whatever it is. So it's all about chipping away, but happily, not like just this, you know, chipping away. Happily, I'm chipping away. I'm becoming this ideal version of myself. I'm breaking down these habits and routines. I'm rewiring the neural circuits in my brain, and I'm going to be that successful person. I'm going to create that ideal version of myself. You know what I mean? So we have this one opportunity in life, and I'm getting very frustrated. You can sense these little habits and routines or little habits coming in. Let's watch Netflix instead of doing this. Let's do that instead of doing this. And you know, and it's always kind of there, but it's far less. And it's just that willingness just to do the thing that you don't want to do first. Basically, that's the first thing you need to do. The thing you don't want to do first. And once you do that, you're going to get a sense of achievement. It's going to give you the motivation. And some people look at motivation as this waiting for it. You know, where's this external motivation? Some things might get from someone, their energy might come in, they'll motivate you, but everything has to be self-start. You can't rely on other people for that motivation to feel love or whatever it is like that. Everything is within ourselves. So that's a nice little practice. And I came across with that from Marissa Peer. She says, she's a famous hypnotherapist. Do the first thing that you do, make sure it's something that you don't want to do first. You know what I mean? And that's the key. And once you start to do that every morning, doesn't matter if it's only 5 minutes breath work, followed by only 5 minutes meditation, doesn't matter how small it is, just do it. You know what I mean? And bit by bit, you'll feel the benefits. You're going to add to it. And that's how we evolve and rewire the neural circuits in our brain. And, you know, so that's that. So I suppose, which key are we on now? So the third one, fourth one.
Fourth.
Sorry, that's right. Fourth. It's cold therapy. And we all probably heard of the famous Wim Hof, you know, this breathwork expert. And he's always talking about how we submerge ourselves in icy cold water and focus on our breath to build our immune system to overcome various ailments that we have, you know, whether it's anxiety, depression, chronic pain, or whatever. And so if you can imagine, you know, so basically with this type of work, I'm telling people, okay, whether it's cold showers, whether it's cold immersion in the bath or into the ocean during the fall and winter months, or getting a basin of water and ice and putting your hand in it, you're probably saying, why the hell would I want to do that? You know, it's but if you know, like, this water, freezing water is like an external physical stressor. you know, and you know what it's like walking into freezing cold or like this. You know, we're tensing, jaws, all this kind of stuff. The water is so cold and we just want to get the hell out of there, you know? But it's all about controlling your breath and just accepting for what it is. Yes, it's freezing cold, but there's nothing going to happen here. Focus on your breath, educate your body to be able to withstand that type of stress, physical stress. And then, so when you do that, that'll translates physically then into any emotional stress that you get. So when you're emotionally stressed, you're angry or you're frustrated, we kind of hold our bodies in kind of similar ways. You know what I mean? Our breathing kind of becomes faster, becomes shorter, our heart rate increases, all this kind of stuff, our muscles tense. So by practicing with cold water, you know what I mean, you can bring that practice into any kind of emotional experience that you have. Focus on your breath, accept it for what it is. Yes, it's freezing cold. Yes, it's really painful. And just kind of observe, reflect, and be able to accept something for what it is. And then when it comes to emotional stress, you'll be able to detach yourself from that and then move on. And that's the thing, a lot of time when we are unable to do that, we keep attached to every single painful experience and we're lugging it with us every single time. And then people always think that time is a healer, but time for me is not a healer, it's a buffer. You know, you don't feel it the same amount. You don't really think of it that often, but if it's not managed properly or released or addressed in any way, it's going to stay repressed, you know, within the body. And your body speaks your mind. You know what I mean? If you're feeling something, if there's a pain or something like that, and you're saying, what the hell is going on here? Just take a breath. What could it be? What kind of stresses are going on? And the funny thing is, you know, people think that, it's funny. There's a lot of people that I see around me, whether they're clients or friends or family, and they're happy. It's great, but it's kind of superficial happiness because there is a lot of that repressed emotion that's there. You know, when you're experiencing so much chronic stress, it becomes the new normal. It doesn't feel like stress anymore. You know what I mean? So you can be happy in a highly stressed state. You know what I mean? So when stress is very normalized like that, and you start talking about this type of work with them, they're like, but I'm not stressed. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong. I'm really happy. I'm, you know, having this love relationship. I really like my job and all this kind of stuff. But their body, they have rheumatoid arthritis. They'll have fibromyalgia. They will have, you know, digestive problems, Crohn's disease, respiratory issues, but they're not stressed. Everything's going okay. But there's a reason for that. And a lot of time it is psychosomatic. You know, the amount of thoughts we have every day, you know what I mean? It's just phenomenal. And there's emotions attached to every thought that we have. You know, but not saying that everything is psychosomatic. You know, obviously diet is a big thing as well. You know, but obviously that's beyond my scope of practice. So that's the cold therapy. So no, it's and again, it's another easy thing that we incorporate into our lives. Just jump into the shower, go down to, if you're next to an ocean, go into the ocean, get a basin of water and ice, and observe how you're reacting to this cold. You know, and bit by bit, you'll build up that tolerance. You'll be able to. That reflection inwards, you know, how you're responding to that. It gives you a sense of gratification, you know, that you're able to do this. And when you go into like a freezing cold shower, you're kind of saying things to yourself, I love this cold water against my skin. I feel so strong. I feel so focused. I feel so energized. And instead of saying, it's freezing, it's cold, I hate this type of thing. It's all about, again, rewiring the neural circuits in your brain, you know, rewriting the story, rewriting your perception towards that thing. You know what I mean? And by doing that, you're completely altering your chemistry, your physiology, your energy. And and you're going to break free from whatever crap that's holding you back. Just practice. So that's that one. That's the fourth one. And then the fifth one is life map. So like you said, we're all these explorers in life, sailing across life, but we all have our own map, our own unique map. And that map tells us where we have been and where we're likely going to go if we continue a certain course. And this isn't any kind of normal map, you know, this is an infinite map, a map full of possibilities, but we just need to know how to use it. And so I've coined this type of thing where, so every destination has coordinates. So in this sense of life map, there's 9 coordinates, and each coordinate represents something essential, but different. So one coordinate might be family. Another coordinate might be health and fitness. Another coordinate might be profession. These are all things, you know, you need to take into consideration. It's part of your life. These are the 9 coordinates of your life, you know what I mean, that need to be nurtured, need to be understood. Because you can't, if you have a desire and if you want to achieve something in your life, but you ignore family, you ignore profession, you ignore something else, and you're just focusing on these other two coordinates, then you're not really going to have a fulfilled life. That's just the way it is. So we have those 9 coordinates that will always stay the same. And then we have one floating coordinate, which is specific to your destination. So let's just say that you want to have a successful career. You want to find your successful career. These 9 coordinates will always stay the same. And this other coordinate then is essentially you at that point where you have your career. You know what I mean? So it's constantly morphing depending on what your desire is or whatever that is that you want, you know? And so incorporating, having that level of understanding of each component of your life is essential. You know what I mean? If you want a life of fulfillment. And that's what it is. You know, I mean, we're constantly chasing our careers, which is linked to, say, our financial capabilities, you know, be able to go on holidays and all this kind of stuff. We focus so much on that, we're just depriving everything else. Do you know what I mean? Our emotional state of mind, our health and fitness, our family, or whatever it is. So it's about understanding, okay, these are all my coordinates here. Let's nurture them, let's understand them. And yeah, and let's just sail through life and get to the place where you want to go.
Wow. So there's so much there. I have to say, it was very interesting for me to listen to each of the 5 and notice where my resistance came up. Because as soon as you, and I'm an ocean swimmer, but as soon as you said cold water, I was like, whoa,
Yeah,
and it lost me there. But I was like, I'm so glad it would come after you've had some evolution of self. I remember the first time that I was in a workshop and, you know, we had to, you know, do the board chopping, and that nervousness around everyone in here is going to be chopping boards and can I do it? And so that feeling of pushing through. And I know that you've got a program just for entrepreneurs. And I think that that's the one thing that, you know, spending a career, not only just being an entrepreneur, but talking and hanging out with entrepreneurs, it's like there's that continuum of wanting to have that breakthrough, whether it's to the next level, whether it's to the next degree, whether they're even people that are going up to the corporate ladder kind of thing. It's like getting to that next stage. But you're so right. Attached to us is everything. And so if this stuff is hanging out, I love how you said buffer. And I loved how Caroline talked when we were talking about the pre-interview around the stuff that you don't see. And so as an entrepreneur, sometimes we feel like we're dragging ourselves to the next level. And we're like, why isn't it happening? What's going on? I'm doing everything I can here, but actually it's something back here. That's the weight, you know, it's the baggage. And until you even look that it's there, and then all of a sudden you feel like you've been propelled like an elastic. It's like, woo, you know, you get to go there because those buffers are gone. It's so incredible. I would imagine that the coldness, I mean, I know what it's like to jump into an ocean and have that cold feeling, but to do it with intention, where it's about breakthrough. I mean, I can't normally just go crack wood, but it was about, you need to have a breakthrough and, you know, and someone there to support you. Right. And so, you know, you don't break your hand or whatever. So it was interesting because as you talk, I felt like I kind of went along that journey and could definitely see how you would breathe differently, just feel lighter, That's how I felt going through it. Caroline, what about you?
You know what, it was eye-opening. And there's one thing that you said that I really, really liked for me was like the cold. I'm sorry, I'm not ready for that. So it's more than a resistance. It's I can't do it right now. Like cold really hurts me. So I clearly have boundaries that I need to work through. But for me, what I really, really liked was the 9 coordinates of your life, your map life at the end. And I think that ultimately, yes, I would need a coach to push me in the cold water or I wouldn't do it, but really, you know, need someone to help me figure out those coordinates. And then you add your professional piece. I've heard so many times, and we've heard it in the past, and yes, it was more towards men, but like, oh my goodness, he had such success in his professional life, but he failed his family life. You know, or if you're lucky in love, you're not lucky in business. If you're lucky in business, you're not lucky in love, as if everything is, you need to choose. And, you know, I think you brought it well together that it's not a question of needing to choose. And on the other end, people talk about balance. I want my balance. I want my balance. It's all because we don't want to have to choose, but you brought it back in a really nice way of create your map life and your life map, I should say. And, you know, work on each coordinate, because you can't be 100% successful if you don't have the rest of it balanced. And that's probably one of the things that I hear the most, is people saying they're looking for balance. And it works well for a month, and then you go back into the rat race or doing something else. And for an entrepreneur, it's like we depend on ourselves for our paycheck and to feed our family and all of this. So it's not something that consciously we're like, okay, I'm going to put it aside for a little, I'm going to take a break, or I'm going to take a vacation or a leave of absence for a year. You don't do these things. So we really need those tools. I think that what you're bringing is amazing, because it's really tools to help us deal with all of that.
Yeah, and there's this like false belief out there that you hear it all the time. You need to work hard. Yeah, I mean, it's okay to a certain extent. Of course, you need to work hard, but anything that we associate hard with is never really good. Working hard is like, ugh. I mean, you'd rather work with more joy. Do you know what I mean? With more kind of happiness. But that's never really what you say. It's always like work hard and so on. And a lot of time, when you're in the rut and you have these business meetings and you want to get to the next stage, or you're financially struggling, whatever it is, we're just on that path, and we're just kind of blinded like this, just focusing this way, and everything else then is in the background. But if you just focused, just say 5 minutes every morning and do this conscious circular breathing, it's going to create more space, within you mentally. It's like when we're carrying all this baggage, your own personal stuff, number one, and then what's going on around you, whether it's like issues with the family or issues at work or whatever it is, there's a lot of stuff that's just being there like a pressure cooker, And by doing the breath work, we're just letting it out. And that's the only way new information can come in. Your willingness to take on new information. You can't take on new information when you're already so full up to the brim. You cannot take any more. You get even frustrated with the idea of someone trying to tell you something new. You have to decompress first, and people fall into the trap of saying, I don't have time. That's another self-limiting belief.
I was just going to say exactly that. Like, I can hear, because I'm hearing it in my head. So I can hear a lot of people right now saying, there's no way I can add one more thing to my plate. It would not be adding something to your plate, maybe.
Oh, it seems like she's kind of gone off. So I'm going to finish her sentence, because we know each other so well but I think that, I think you nailed it. It's a limiting belief, because knowing your work, I mean, I've done breath work. My first time I did breath work was almost 30 years ago. And thank you so much for that reminder. Whether you're an entrepreneur or not, I think you're always looking for a renewal. You're looking for more space. You're looking for more time. You did great.
Well, sorry, guys. Since we don't edit our podcast, you live very live. Our technical difficulty. Apparently, computers need to be charged always. So I will just let Deb and Peter continue their discussion, and I apologize for that.
No worries. No worries. That's why, you know what? That's live. That's live. Myself and Peter were having that conversation about, I was talking about breath work and not ever seeing it part of a program, because it's been so profound, and breath work has been so well known for so long time. And I have to say, honestly, what an incredible program. What an incredible, really, it is a journey of self-discovery, but with a focus, right? It's not just like, I'm going to heal. You're like, you have aspiration to really have a better life. And I love the part of your story that I love the most was when you had your moment of passion, and that you weren't at 15, 18, 22. The courage it took for you to be in a career that you went to school for, that you studied a long time for, and then got real with yourself that this wasn't fulfilling you. That alone, we could have done the whole interview on, because there's a lot of people out there that are living their life based on what they think they should, someone told them, or they just spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to learn it. And oh my gosh, here I am here, and this doesn't feel right. And then keeping it to themselves, because that could almost create a shame moment for people, like, what's wrong with me? Because I thought I wanted it, but I didn't. So sometimes we find ourselves in situations where we're like, ooh, it looked good, but now it doesn't feel good. And then we need to come to that moment of time and make a change. And that could be in many areas. But honestly, I want to cahoots you on that courage. And so, Peter, I think we've given our listeners an incredible, open view of what it is that they could experience with you. And wow, sign me up. So can you please tell our wonderful audience how to reach you and what that looks like?
Yeah, of course. I mean, any of those listeners who are interested in, who think that they're ready to embark on this type of inner journey. And if you like what I was saying, then you just go to themindsetexplore.com. And in there, you go to transformational coaching, and then there will be a link there where you'll be able to set up a 15-minute meeting with me. And we can just talk about, what's going on in your life type thing. And we can see if this program is a right fit for you. So feel free to give me a call. I'll be looking forward to chatting with you.
Awesome. And just to throw in there, Peter's been really generous today. And for all our listeners, that is going to be complimentary. So you're going to have your own private time to have a conversation about something about you. And you're allowed that opportunity to see if this actually is the right. And I love how you said, if you're ready, right? If you're ready for this. And that, I always say to people, if you have an inkling at all, if you're leaning into the radio right now, or you're leaning in and there's something there, then there's probably something there, right? If there's something there, there's probably something there. If you have lots of resistance, there's probably something there. If you're leaning in, there's probably something there. So what a pleasure to get to know you. I know this may be your first podcast with us or ever, but this will not be your last podcast. It's been a pleasure to meet with you. And I think we had a little bit of technical difficulties. So if you as well think that you have something to share, love to get onto the podcast. We'd love to hear from you because we're all here to support entrepreneurs and lifepreneurs and having the kind of information and guests like Peter come on and share. So with that, Caroline, I'll let you finish off today and then we'll
it's really a different week, eh? Yeah. I'm having the last word. So let's put an X on the calendar, people, because Deb gave her space. I'm joking. Well, thank you for being here again. And to reiterate what Deb just said, we would love to hear from you as well. Wrote to us at debandcaroline@gmail.com. And thank you for always being here. We appreciate it. We appreciate you so much. Have a beautiful day.